Let's unpack how big government spending impacts affordability in America. So the Labor Department data has now shown massive price increases since the year 2000 in several sectors with a high level of government involvement. Yes, that's right. Since 2000, hospital services, guess how much they're up? 252.5%. College tuition up almost 173%. Housing up 103%. When they put their paws in, it doesn't work out. In addition, the Biden-Harris administration has added over $1 trillion and 312 million hours of paperwork in regulatory activity so far. This is according to the American Action Forum. Let's bring in Art Laffer, former Reagan economic advisor and Laffer Associates chairman. Art, it is always great to have you. Your group committee
Jackie,
to...
it's nice to be here.
Okay, your group is obviously the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, reporting that the Biden-Harris regulations have actually costed the average American family nearly $50,000. So we're watching the DNC this week. We're not hearing specifics about the policy, but people are wondering if we have to suffer for some reason through 8 more years of this, what would that do to the middle class? Because I think it would just crush it.
Well, I think you're correct. It will crush it. I mean, it's clear that the Biden-Harris administration has been very, very focused on increasing regulations, restrictions, requirements, of mandates, all of that stuff. And all of that adds a great deal to the expenses of a middle-class family or a lower-class family or an upper-class family. It hits all Americans across the board, and it does nothing but damage as far as the costs go. And the benefits, as you know, often are to take away things, not add things to the economy. So it's a net loser, and that study shows that it really is a net loser and is hurting the economy a lot.
Art, we got this big downward revisions to jobs today, almost 1 million jobs. And I know that means on one hand that the economy is probably not quite as strong as some people have said it is. But to me, the bigger issue is the lack of trust that people have in the data that they're getting. And this number only adds fuel to that fire. How big of an issue is that, Art?
You know, I'm not involved in the collection and the analysis of those numbers like I once was. I was once chief economist at the Office of Management and Budget when it was formed in 1970, and I really got to know those numbers, Brian, really, really, really well back then. I would be shocked if the processes that are developing those numbers were changed and that there was any reason not to trust those numbers any more today than back then. Those numbers are result from surveys, et cetera, and in the revisions, they get all the final stuff in, they put it all together, and then they do a revision. I really personally I don't lose trust in those numbers. I hope other people don't either. I can't imagine them being used politically.
So, Art, we just got to hear, your thoughts, your studies on the impact of the Democrats' economic policy on the American consumer, the American household. So I just want to highlight a Kamala Harris economic policy proposal on the corporate tax rate to hike it from 21% to 28%. What do you say about how that's going to impact the American worker and the American economy?
Yeah, well, let me just say there are 2 parts to it. Number one is there's a part that just automatically goes away, sunsets at the end of 2025. That does not include the corporate rate. They need to do that by separate legislation to be able to raise that rate up to 28%. But if they did that, why would they do that? I mean, in fact, what we know is that by dropping that rate to 21%, the budget revenues came in larger. Not only larger than expected, came in larger than they had the year before with a higher rate. Not only that, the poverty in the United States at an all-time low, especially amongst minorities, the poor, the disadvantaged. And if you look at the growth rate of the U.S., the growth rate in that 2-year period when the Tax Cut and Jobs Act bill passed, we were growing right along with Europe prior to that, and then right after that, we started growing faster than Europe. At the end, our GDP was 2.5 percentage points higher than it would have been had we stayed growing at the European rate. All of these are enormous positive benefits. Why would you want to throw those benefits away and make Americans worse off? But that's Kamala. She needs an economic advisor badly, 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 and she doesn't have one to telling her what really happens. And that's very sad and very scary.
Art, we were listening to Michelle Obama last night, and she was talking about how in her household, her parents didn't take more than they needed, and everybody helped the neighbors, and that is kind of the world that we live in now. And it was hard for me to watch and swallow that, given that, you know, the Obamas have amassed a large amount of wealth since they left the White House, and she is not,
Sure.
you know, abiding to the we should take what we need and give the rest away. And so to me, when I see that on the stage at the DNC, it seems very hypocritical, and that's in line with a lot of the other kind of talking points that we hear from the Democrats. But the people were just soaking it up, at least in that room last night. Do people look at that and think to themselves, you know, you're part of the elite. You're part of the elite that's benefiting from being elite, yet for some reason, for everybody else, you kind of want to level the playing field.
Yeah, it is sort of shocking to hear people talk like that. It is really shocking. The one thing we know is everyone responds to incentives, including the Obamas, including everyone else, socialists, left-wingers, right-wingers, middle-wingers. And that's why economics is built upon that premise of greed. I mean, Milton agreed, and incentives to better yourself. And it's those incentives, it's the invisible hand that makes the economy as great as it is. If you had some academic training in there, you would know that personal incentives are the key to economic prosperity. And taxes have consequences. They really do. And raising those taxes does not make the economy prosper.
Yeah, people don't get it.
You can't tax an economy into prosperity. You just can't do it. And the Obamas should know that.
Yeah. Always great to say. They do know that, and I think this is all by design.
Thank you, guys.
That's for another conversation. Always great to see you. Thank you.